And then Robbie responds with a Loom video, fills up my entire screen. And I'm like, what? And then he's just like in my room, just telling me, this is what I can do for you guys. And this is how I can show you how to write a book, get reviews, help your business.
People should read this book. I want people to read this book.
Yeah.
And I stopped and my marketing instincts took over and I created a launch plan and I pushed off the launch for 6 weeks. And I aimed to get 100 reviews on Amazon. And I did. I had 150 reviews within a month. But what if the brick was propping open the door between me and a prospect or between me and a referral partner? And every time during the launch sequence, I had a conversation with them, it props the door a little wider until there was no barrier between me and that person and they just invite me in.
All right, Robbie. So I got to start off with your whole technology shtick is like on point. I like really appreciate that. So a little bit of background. We're sending emails back and forth, or at least I send an email first, hey, we'd love to have you on the podcast. And then Robbie responds with a Loom, fills up my entire screen. And I'm like, what? And then he's just like in my room, just telling me, this is what I can do for you guys. And this is how I can show you how to write a book, get reviews, help your business. So I immediately go over to Loom, set up my account, and then I send you a response video. And then hopefully that was enough to convince you to join a little podcast here. So welcome. Thank you for joining.
It worked. It worked. What a fun intro. I love it.
Absolutely. And I don't find too many people that have adopted technology so well. It's rare. Folks will look into a certain niche and they might do it because of work, right? Or they might have workflows and they're specific to, maybe they had a programming background and so they'll work on one piece. But somebody who incorporates it in their daily life, they just like 100x their capability, efficiency, effectiveness, all of that stuff. And I think you're doing it just right.
Actually, I had a moment the other day where prospect sent me inquiry, and I could tell from the inquiry tone that they were feeling very angsty. They basically had someone write a forward for their book who's really well known. And because they read my book about book launches, they thought, oh, okay, Robbie says invite that person to be a VIP speaker at my launch party. So they did, and the person said yes, which is not a shocker. They wrote the forward. But now they're like, oh no, they're going to overshadow me at my own launch party. So that was basically the intro message. So I'm out with my family, but the kids were on a carnival ride and I was just sitting there waiting. And so I opened up the app on my phone and just while sitting on the grass at a carnival, recorded a 45-second thing being like, here's how you could handle that. And then included my booking link. It would have taken me a lot more time to think about what's the perfect thing to write. And I can convey it so much better in a video. So I love using video as a way to introduce myself.
Yeah, I know some folks in the real estate world, they use voice memos really well. And I thought that was pretty clever because it's so much faster than sitting there typing, trying to figure out the right word and the meaning. And with the voice, you can convey a little bit more tonality, but then with video, it just takes it up a notch completely, where it's like, hey, you don't get interrupted in a little video. You can just say your spiel, nice and comfortable. You can think about your thoughts and then hit send, and then that way they have it.
In 2019, I got a job where I was coaching entrepreneurs on behalf of a company out of Montreal. I initially just had maybe a dozen one-on-one clients that I met with every other week. It was on top of my own business that I was doing. And then the pandemic kind of shuttered my business, which is a part of my story. And in April of 2020, they approached me and said, hey, we have a course where we sell how to launch a course. And we're way oversubscribed. Like we have, obviously, like April 2020, everybody wanted to build a course. It's a half-time role with you. And I'm like, I don't really have a role right now at all for my company other than the clients I'm working with you on. So I said yes, but it turned out to be 214 people that I was shepherding through this course. And I didn't have to meet with them unless they met certain milestones, but they would send me these email questions. And after a while, I started using Loom to record actually FAQ answers. Sometimes I would have to personalize it, but a lot of times I would just grab a link from my little library of responses because everybody was asking the same things at certain intervals. And I just was dropping it in and it helped a lot. And so I got convinced back then, and I use it when making proposals. So if someone will send me an email inquiry, I'll write out the email, but I'll always include a little, oh, hey, if I'm getting referred from you to somebody else because I might be able to help them, I try to include it. So I would say 90% of the time, I try to include the video in that first touch if I can. And I use it to answer questions for clients asynchronously, so we don't have to have meetings all the time. Yeah.
I'm going to do that as well. In fact, you inspired me to start doing that. For one of the things I do is consult for businesses as well. And I was walking them through their website and said, hey, this is a good time to make a video. And I recorded myself going through their website, all of the issues that I noticed. And then I think that went really well because their feedback was, hey, great video. Thanks for doing that. Really explained it well. So what I want to do is take all of the goodness, and you joined our school community as well. Thank you for doing that. I want to take all of that goodness that you have. It's not just Loom videos. Let's talk about books and how can folks get into writing and possibly even publish themselves.
Yeah. So my background is that I wrote my first book, which came out in 2017. It's about networking at conferences. And I wrote that book because I had my aim to be a professional speaker. I had been speaking on the topic of networking for probably like 7 or so years at that point, maybe a little longer, paid since 2008. 2009. So 2009 to 2014 basically was a time frame that I was doing this, and then I decided I was gonna do it as a business, and then I started working on the book like with earnest. And I, prior to that, had only really written in an academic way, and I didn't love it. I had gotten my undergrad and then my master's in social work, and so writing to me was laborious and not instinctual, and I love video. Like talking to people in person, this is my medium. I kept putting it off, and I finally found a way, and I moved forward, and I wrote the way I spoke, and I found out that was fine. So I was like, oh, I could do that. So I'm getting ready to publish, and I'm self-publishing. I do shoestring budget. I'm paying for the people I can afford, which is not the best quality people you can get.
Yes.
And I'm learning a lot, and I'm about to hit publish. I'm getting really close, and I realize that this is a really good book and that it's valuable. People should read this book. I want people to read this book.
Yeah.
And I stopped, and my marketing instincts took over, and I created a launch plan, and I pushed off the launch for 6 weeks. And I aimed to get 100 reviews on Amazon. And I did. I had 150 reviews within a month, within a couple of weeks of the launch day. It was hectic and frenetic. And the company that I had learned the framework of the launch process from were blown away by my achievement.
That's right. Yeah. Really cool. Let's talk about that for a second. So let's quantify this a little bit. Let's say 100 reviews. Let's just say within 2 weeks. I know it's plus or minus. What was like day -10 leading up to this?
Well,
amazing...
at the time I have looked this all up. I didn't have very many people on my mailing list.
Okay.
And in fact was using this to build a mailing list. So people who were opting in for my launch team were also being added. And it was a significant jump. So people that were signing up weren't necessarily on a list already. There were people in my network. Okay. And so you get people, and this is still what I'm doing today, you identify people to join the launch team. There's some criteria, namely they would be interested themselves in the topic, or they might know people because either they're prospects or referral partners. And my book and my work is about helping people figure out who those people are because it has to be tied to an end goal. And so at the time, I didn't have an offer other than speaking. And so it was a little wonky, like trying to figure out both these things at the same time, which is what I now coach people on, is have that determined before building the launch team, because then it's a little more seamless. In advance of the book being published, based on them reading the advanced reader copy, I give them prompts to help them write a 2-3 sentence review. It's not a book report. It's not like fourth grade, no stress. And then once the book has been published for 99 cents on Kindle, we give them back their review text and instructions for how to buy the book and leave a review. So it's a verified review. And the difference between what I did then and what I now do is that I only gave myself 3 days between the publication date and my launch date. So everything had to get on really in a tight frame. And then like within a week of the launch date is when I hit about 150. But now I take 2 to 3 weeks with my clients to do that. My latest book, my 4th book, is called Launch Your Book, An Entrepreneur's Guide to Reviews That Drive Revenue. It's a meta thing to write a book about a launch process. And you have to then have a good launch. My soft launch, the period between the publication and the launch date, happened to be late June to early July 2025. And I got 200 reviews on Amazon in those 2 weeks.
Jeez Louise. Okay, so let me try to understand this because I never published a book. And if, let's say somebody, and in fact, I know somebody that I'm going to use as an example here. We chatted yesterday. His name is Trueness Goggins. So you probably heard of David Goggins, super popular bad dude that can do like just about everything. His brother, his elder brother. And he wrote a book. It's called 4 Ps. And I took a look at it and he needs reviews, right? So he just wrote it basically. We're trying to get this thing going. And so if I understand it correctly, you're saying that, and just stop me when I'm wrong. So you talk to folks in the Ethernet and you tell them that, hey, I'm going to let you get a copy of this pre-sale in exchange for a positive review, testimonial, if you like it. And then once your book is launched, you return something to them. I can't quite grasp what that is.
Let me walk. If you want 50 people to leave an Amazon review for you by some date in the future, and I'm using 50 on purpose, most people who publish books who are thought leaders, experts, business owners aren't even getting 20 reviews. So getting 50 would help you stand out.
Okay, so 50 is like a big number.
50 would, 100, Amazon starts doing some extra promotion for you, but let's aim for 50 because it requires you to have a process. You cannot do this by happenstance. So if you want 50, only a third of the people who join your launch team are likely to leave a review in the specified amount of time, 2 weeks in this case. Right?
Okay.
3 weeks max. And that means that a month before your publication date, you need 150 people to say, yes, I'm in. I will commit to writing a review.
Oh, I see. Because the review has to be published within 30 days of launch or within 2 weeks.
So let's say November 15th is your launch day.
Okay.
November 1st is when your book's being published. So in between those 2 weeks is when you're trying to get the reviews on Amazon. But October 1st is when you need to have 150 people signed up. And to get 150 people signed up by then, you have to actually ask in September about 200 people.
The sign up part, like the definition of that, is that
filling out a Google form.
Or just in a Google file?
I have a process. I describe it all in my book.
Okay.
Well, Amazon has nothing to do with this until they're buying the book and leaving the review.
Got it. Yep. That's with the last 2 weeks. Okay, I understand.
Last part of it.
Exactly.
So the question then is, who should I invite to be on the launch team? That depends on what the outcome is of the book. Because it's not about the sale of the individual copies of this book. It's about I work with entrepreneurial authors who are writing because they're speakers, coaches, consultants. So this book is meant to attract that audience.
Exactly.
Let's talk through what that offer is. Does it exist? Is it a proven offer? Is it an offer that you'd like to create based on this book? I'm a coach. I can help you think that through too. Ultimately, knowing that, then we think about who to invite. And I have a process for helping you suss out from your own network. So you mentioned like you tell the internet, no, this is really more about leaning into your existing contacts. In fact, there's a 2-part criteria to even consider inviting people on the launch team. And the first is they would remember my name. And the second part of that question is I would be happy to hear from them out of the blue.
Exactly.
But
Okay,
if
I
reach out to you
definitely want to
6
use
months from
Trinus as an example here because I think I'm just going to send this to him immediately after and say, you need to do this. He's basically a celebrity as well because as soon as you say David Goggins and you're his brother, he's going to Australia, he's representing the US in like some amazing like CrossFit competition. He doesn't really need my help. But at the same time, he wrote a book. I know he needs reviews. And so I want him to go down this path. He probably has a decent sized following already. How can he begin? Let's just come up with a game plan for him.
One, he would go to booklaunchbrainstorm.com and schedule a complimentary brainstorming call with me to talk about his launch, or if his book's already out, a relaunch. It's a strategy. There's a process written about in my book. That link has my book and the bonus content at the top. So you can get the bonus content whether or not you buy the book, but you can go grab the book and DIY yourself through this process. But the strategy that I offer is really about tying it back to what comes next. Now, he may not need my help because if people own a helicopter, they don't need a runway. If people have a very small plane, they need a long runway. So yeah, I tend to work with people.
The two have to match the job.
I tend to work with people who need a long runway to get their ideas heard. If he is really well known or has a celebrity connection, then he may not need a structured process that I'm talking about. Like Brene Brown would not need my help getting people to leave reviews because she's got this really incredible following. Okay. So I tend to work with people who have probably under 10, I'll just say loosely under 10,000 email list subscribers. They have a business. I work with a lot of professional speakers and coaches who are really established. They probably even may have other books out there that have done well. This could be their second edition or their second or third book, but they don't really want the responsibility of owning the launch process. They want to do it more strategically. The market's changed. Like what worked 7 years ago, it's not working as well today. So partly they work with me because I'm going to help them navigate that.
Yeah, no, I think he would want to work with you. And I think he is under 10,000, at least online, influence wise. So first thing is talk to you, you come up with a game plan. His end goal is probably speaking roles. He's a great speaker. He was military prior. And so he probably wants to leverage this book to ultimately get some speaking roles around the country.
The good news about that is the best way to make money off a book isn't from selling the book, but about selling the book in bulk related to a talk. So why are reviews important? Reviews are social proof on the book's sales page on Amazon. Let me talk about this on the human side and then the AI algorithm side. So on the human side, more than 90% of us, studies have shown, check reviews before we make a purchase.
Yes.
Okay, so we're thinking about buying a book on leadership, and there's 30,000 new books on leadership. Oh, this book has 83 reviews. This book has 8, right? Like easy. I'm thinking about hiring a person to come speak about leadership. Everyone I'm considering has a book because books open the door to these opportunities.
I see.
What distinguishes you from other people? Like how do you increase your credibility? Reviews. So again, reviews come to play. Now let's talk about the algorithm AI side of it. Your discoverability on Amazon is related to how many reviews you have. So when I think about you put in keywords, it's not just the keywords, which a lot of people will sell you like how to have better keywords. It's where do those keywords deliver you on the results page, on the search results. So you'll be ranked higher on the search results page for those keywords based on the quantity of reviews, quality of the reviews, recency of reviews, and percentage of verified reviews. So it's not just about having a lot of reviews, it's about having reviews ongoing. So my book that I just mentioned, Launch Your Book, An Entrepreneur's Guide to Reviews That Drive Revenue, it has 240-ish reviews now.
Wow.
And I'm aiming for 1,000. And people are like, well, why are you aiming for 1,000? Because there's a book that's called Book Launch that has 911 written reviews, and it's got way more than that ratings. For me, my book, when I say it has 140 written reviews, 240 written reviews, it has 242 ratings and 240 reviews. Like almost every single person is writing a review, where most of these people who are more famous, they will have a lot of 5-star reviews with no text. And that does not impact the algorithm as much. So I'm trying to stay on the top of the page, and I know that his book's going to show up. So even though he has more reviews, I have more recent reviews, and I continue to have recent reviews. So I've been above him now for weeks.
Oh, there you go. It's the quality, not the quantity.
It's a mixture. It's the quantity, it's the quality, it's the recency. He doesn't have any reviews since 2023.
Gotcha.
So he did a big push in 2023 and then hasn't done reviews for that book since. Minimum for people who are like trying to make this a professional business asset, 100 plus for people who have the ability to get 300 launch team members. And then having an ongoing, like every quarter, having a process for how you might continue to get reviews in a coordinated way. These reviews can also be repurposed. They can be used on Goodreads or LinkedIn recommendations or social posts, etc. And here's the way I really want you to think about it. It's not about the reviews. I just told you how important reviews are. That's the goal. The purpose of this launch process is actually the conversation the author, who's an entrepreneur, is having with their launch team filled with prospects and referral partners. So every conversation leads to more dialogue, more possibilities of new revenue, or
yes, more doors open. Exactly.
In fact, I have an analogy that's not in my book. So most people talk about their book being a business card. That's a very common thing people say. But I'm going to say most of those people are treating their book like a brick. So this is my third book. It's a book about using Zoom effectively, and it's my thickest book. It's a big book. So I published this book, and it's now this brick, and I stand on the brick.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of myself. Very proud. Look what I did. Yay. At some point, life moves on and I have to step off the brick. The brick is now just sitting there. But what if the brick was propping open the door between me and a prospect, or between me and a referral partner? And every time during the launch sequence, I had a conversation with them, it props the door a little wider until there is no barrier between me and that person, and they just invite me in. Now the book, as a brick, is actually a business asset.
Exactly.
That's how we're doing strategically, thinking about leveraging the book.
Phenomenal. That opens up the eyes for a lot of folks, because they may have considered getting a book, but to write a book is completely different. And then when you start adding all of these intangible values to it, like you mentioned, opening doors, speaking roles, speaking with people, joining clubs essentially that are looking for those folks that have deep content-filled reviews, I think that's phenomenal. So how do folks these days, AI is everywhere, obviously, and I would imagine it's relatively easier to get into writing a book than it was 10 years ago. What kind of programs or recommendations would you have for those folks?
I founded something called the BizBook Pub Hub, which is a resource ecosystem for entrepreneurial authors. I initially created it because I was looking to join a referral network for people who specifically worked with these kinds of authors, the authors who are writing books to grow their business, speaking, coaching, consulting. I didn't find that. Instead, the 25 or so people that I did research calls with were like, when is it going to happen? Are you going to do it? And I was like, oh. So I started working on this in January of 24. And by the end of the year, it was this whole space. So now there are more than 24 curated experts who support entrepreneurs through any phase, like writing, editing, publishing, launching, marketing their book. So you can meet with them. Some do a lot of things. Some do just one or two pieces. Some do things like websites or get you on a podcast or help you launch a podcast. I host a free virtual networking event every single month for authors. 1 month is focused on the author journey, and they get to connect with these hub partners, these experts. The following month is actually focused on speakers. A lot of speakers are authors and authors are speakers. I host that event where we really focus on the speaking part of this, as well as the fact that we have these author services. And then there's a podcast. BizBook Pub Hub allows you to connect with author panels. We interview people about the ROI of writing a book, about their author journey. I interview one-on-one with authors who've had amazing success because they were an author. And I interview the experts from the hub about the services they provide. And then 3 times a year, I organize a Kindle flash sale where dozens of these entrepreneurial authors lower their Kindle book price to 99 cents. We all cross promote. So it's like another opportunity to do some marketing. So I'm trying to build community with the authors, the writers and authors, and with the experts who serve that space, because it's a very unique thing to write a book to build a business. They don't have to be a quote business book, but it's a book written to grow the business. And the needs of that world are very different. Because like when I talk about a launch party, it's actually about launching not really the book, but the offer that comes after the book. It's like, yay, we did a thing. Next step is, and most people who are thinking launch parties are not thinking that. And so they're not tying that all together. But I'm like, no, you wrote a book to sell your services, and that fast track to who's in the launch team. So bizbookpubhub.com is where you'll find all of those things. For me, I will say I still don't really identify as a writer. I have 4 books to my name. Yeah. The writing process has gotten easier. This last round, I did engage with AI by taking transcripts that I had done of lots of video content, and I asked to clean it up, not just remove the timestamp, but turn it into something I could read. I also had it review my manuscript, and I will say something really funny here, Sonic. It pointed out that I was missing an emotional undertone because my book was all like factual, do this step, do this next step. It was AI that was like, people will probably be a little nervous here and here. And I went and wrote out. So having a thought partner act as your potential reader and give you feedback, I think that was really helpful. And of course, I'm using Grammarly, which has got an AI component to make you a stronger writer. So writing is easier for that purpose. So these are some of the tools I think you can use. I'm not going to recommend is write a book in a weekend, just throw in a bunch of prompts. it should be content you're known for and that you've put out into the world and gotten feedback on.
A couple of things. One is when you write a book, I've heard folks want to also hear the audio from the author themselves. What's your recommendation for doing that in an efficient manner? Because I have some ideas too.
One of our hub partners is a guy who runs something called narrateyourownbook.com, I believe is what the website is.
Wow, that's pretty easy.
His name is David H. Lawrence the 17th. He's an actor. But David will send you the equipment. He's got an online program. He walks you through exactly what to do if you want to do it yourself. He's an audio engineer. He's a voice actor. So he really understands the technical part as well as the like, how do you emote your story and tell it in a way that's interesting. If you're not already familiar with all those pieces, I think working with someone like him makes a lot of sense. And he's the kind of person you find at BizBook Pub Hub.
Okay, yeah, good. Thank you. Have you come across any artificial intelligence type tools? Like the one I know of is called Synthesia, where it can train on your voice, and people will use this for advertisements or little videos where it's like your avatar looks like you, speaks like you, same tonality, all of those things, and then give it the script essentially, which would be your book, and it would sit there in your own tone, narrate the whole book.
Personally, there's enough of my content out there, video, podcast, that someone could probably quickly create a deep fake. I personally don't want to make it any easier for them. So I've chosen not to create my own avatar or voice or any of those things. There are tools out there. In fact, through Amazon, they'll create an AI version. It won't necessarily be your voice. Another one, you basically read the first 2 chapters and then it uses that to create the rest of it. They're not 100% yet, but they're good. People who don't know you super well would not necessarily see the difference, or hear the difference, I should say. There are tools like that, but there's something about having the resources. It's a question of where you want to spend your money and your time.
Time is super important.
Create an audio
If I have money and they want to just trade it for time, just do it for me. I know we're getting close to time here. Let's talk about some of the folks that have gone through your program, launched a book successfully, and maybe some of their successes that you can highlight.
Oh yeah. Stacey Larson wrote a book called Reframing the Leadership Dance. And she was ready to publish when we met. And I asked her a couple of questions about how the book fit with her business. And she stumbled a little in her answer. We stayed for 30 minutes after the networking call we were on, and then met again the following week. And she hired me as a business coach and as her book launch strategist. And I was able to help her. One, her publisher was going to have her print a small book, but as a 6x9, like not a lot of words. And it would have been very thin. So I suggested a different size, basically a 5x8. And she had to push back with them, and they did it. So then we did this whole launch sequence, and she has 77 written reviews on Amazon from, I think, 78 ratings.
Wow.
But the bigger part is that we then kept working together about tying what was the customer journey from the book to her business. She had a very established business as a coach. She works with leaders in mid-size companies, and she rebranded a lot of her stuff and then set some revenue goals for her and her team. She met them in April. So her goals for the year, she met in April, and she's doubled her revenue from the previous year. So it's the book plus some smart strategy about how she's been leveraging the book. The book's in her own voice. It's easy and quick to consume. It's not a long book. So that was one real win. And another one I would say is Lois Kramer. She created the second edition of a book called Book More Business, Make More Money Speaking, which is teaching professional speakers how to do a sales call. Honestly, anyone who wants to do sales would learn something from this book.
Yes.
And she wanted the second edition to not flop because a lot of times people don't pay attention to the second edition. So she hired me. She had a loving, supportive community. She helped me by creating like a list of 600 people. 400 signed up. She had 130 something reviews by her launch date. And then she's down at like 150. So she's really happy because not just the reviews, but she wanted to speak at all these different chapter meetings for the National Speakers Association and the Canadian version. And by inviting people to be on the launch team, they then invited her to come speak at their chapter. And she's
opening doors
and selling bulk orders of the book to speaker academies that these chapters run, etc. She's already a very established thought leader, but this book doing well just reinforces that she knows what she's talking about and staying current. So those are 2 good examples.
Wow, that's phenomenal. I know a lot of people are going to be really interested in this. So thank you very much for joining us, Ravi. Really appreciate it. Looks like you have a ton of knowledge, ton of experience, and a lot of value to share with folks. We'll certainly share all of your information in the description below. And so once again, thank you very much for joining us.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Later.